Yeah, so we have 14 people live, and they are free to ask any questions in the chat. If anybody has any questions. How's it going, Eduardo? How are you doing?
Doing okay. Things all getting polished. Still a couple of things to do, like the documentation is almost ready. The DevTools support, I have to find a way to add it without increasing the bundle size, which is weird because I have a few bugs left over, and just waiting for people to try it out and see what bugs they found and what things I can fix.
That sounds exciting. Yeah, the team has really been putting a lot of work into this. It's really nice.
Yeah, a lot of work by so many people.
Yeah.
We don't realize sometimes, yeah. Okay.
So if nobody has any technical questions, have you picked up any new hobbies or skills during the pandemic?
No. Did I? I tried to learn again Portuguese and stopped.
Oh, nice.
I tried to learn Chinese, but it was way too complicated, especially after going back to Portuguese, where you really get as a Spanish speaker, you get to speak Portuguese very quickly, and Chinese is far from that. It's very it was not for me to keep doing it. Tried reading more, but not even. Didn't gain weight. Yeah, at least. I mean,
you didn't?
I didn't. I was the same.
Nice. Nice. All right, so we have one question. Will the new router be able to support any order for routes in multiple dynamic slugs?
Should be able to. So the idea is there is this thing. So I shared the URL in the chat. You can paste your routes, and if it works, okay on the right, and knowing that there are very, very few cases that you cannot correctly rank the routes, especially if you give custom regex, the router cannot know what regex is more powerful than other or more specific. But if you have multiple slugs, yeah, that works. That's the basic case, I would say. So if you have one with, if you have routes that have 3 dynamic, the other 2 are static, and another one has a section that is static, and like instead of being dynamic, it will be ranked before. Like the order of the sections also matter. It will be possible to test the router regex in the DevTools. You don't really, in a way, yeah, indirectly. You can write basically on the routes. That's how I did it. It was a quick prototype. I mean, it's not really a prototype, it's production ready. But it was just an idea. So you can filter the routes that you have, and you can filter them just by writing any URL that will match them. And it's a bit inclusive, match routes that are more or less complete, so matching by the beginning and stuff like that. Otherwise, using the link that I just shared, I mean, maybe I should copy it again just in case, but this URL, you can test URLs too. It's basically like at the beginning I wanted to do that, but then Guillaume introduced a version of the DevTool where you can add your own thing to the DevTool. So I went for that. It's so much cooler. So you'll be able to see the regex also that is generated by the route. It would be nice to have alphabetical sorting capability in DevTools, ignoring the order and filter the list. So for the left, I don't think so, because the order is ordered by matching order stuff, so by priority. So the order actually matters there. It's not about being alphabetical or not. Having an option to make them, yeah, why not? Maybe for a future version, definitely worth considering. Anyway, thanks for the talk. Thank you. The use case, I have multiple unique filter. Oh, wait, multiple unique filter. Okay, I think technical questions probably for another moment, but it should work. And if you have multiple sections, yeah, it will probably work without problem. You can still try it on the paths or regex, the paths URL I shared, and see if it's not what you expect, and open an issue, and I will reply there. That is not so big that use vuex, your tranquility. When will be a good time to start migrating to Vue? I think we'll have answers about that tomorrow. Migrating probably take a bit more time. For an application that is not so big that uses vuex, you are tranquility. So if you depend on anything, you still have to wait for the library to migrate. I think vuelidate did migrate. I still think that depends on. I mean, the code is stable. We have been using it for some time. We're very active also, so we're going to be very reactive, I think, for the couple of weeks that are to come. I mean, the more people start using it, the more we're going to be active to fix any bugs that appear. So I think if you have something critical for production, migrating may still have to wait a little bit, but we have more infos tomorrow. For new applications, though, you can give it a try. I think it's going to be cool. I think a lot of people are already doing that. What is your take on special characters in URL, like E with accent? We face difficulties with route matching because of encoding. Well, that's a very broad question. I check on every single browser to try to provide a solution that worked everywhere for the new router. The past router has a few issues. The idea on the new router, I think I said that on the talk, is that as long as you use params, query, and hash, you can provide them unencoded, and the router will encode them for you. Now, the thing is, the reason that is that way is because that way you always have the unencoded versions on the params, query, and hash, which are the things you usually use, no matter where you are at. You always use that. If you look at the current route location, you also have that. And if no matter the browser, some browsers like Internet Explorer, which is not a browser, but some people still use it, they will not encode some of the sections and give to the JavaScript the unencoded versions of the URL, which is technically incorrect by spec, but they were following a different spec or whatever. So you will still end up with the unencoded versions on params and stuff like that, even though the user should never end in a URL like that. The only reason for a user to end in a URL like that is writing them by hand. But any other browser, you will see that they will encode the values, and they will sometimes not even show you that they encode the values. For example, Firefox does that on the hash. And if you copy the URL, you will get an encoded value that doesn't look at all like what you have on the URL. And it's really nice because the user doesn't need to know. The end user doesn't need to know about encoding, but the developer does. So having the encoded values on the JavaScript is very important. And about route matching, well, you still have to encode your path, so to say. So you have static versions, static sections on the path that contains characters that need to be encoded. You need to encode them as well. Now you can still encode URI on the string, and it should work. But you have to be careful about any regular expression and stuff like that. I did list the list of characters that are encoded by the router, so hopefully it should be enough for anybody to create a function that encodes the URLs for them. But note that some users, depending on the browser, they're using ugly URLs, so that's probably why people never use characters and special characters for URLs, except for the query or the hash, but that's very different.
Mm-hmm.
They say, today is difficult for external components to add routes, but with the new dynamic routing support, I guess it'd be possible for components to add a set of routes to an application. For example, if I add a blog component to my application, it can add blog-specific routes. Yeah, that's correct. You still need to, for example, if you add a new route, and imagine you have a navigation guard that adds the route, and the route added will be matched by, you'll still have to do a new navigation. You can still call next or return a new redirection. That will work, but it's in the user responsibility to navigate again when new routes are added or removed, so you can display the correct component for a given view. So that's important if you want to do declarative routing. It's not that easy. There are a lot of things to take into account because you have to. So that's why it's not that cool as it looks because you lose a lot of other opportunities regarding the syntax that we have on the scoring system. In continuation to the DevTools improvements, of course, the order matters. It's just for the sake of temporary reserve, the list of available routes in case when there are hundreds of paths with an option hide. Yeah, I get it. I think that should go as a feature request once the DevTools support is added. I don't think there is a section to. I mean, we cannot add this kind of interfaces right now given the DevTools, like the API that the DevTools is exposing. You cannot add yet. I don't know if it's planned, but you cannot add like custom options or checks, stuff like that. So there is not a way for me to do that yet, even though it's still not released. It's on a branch on GitHub, but it's not even released. You could also imagine that you do a search writing redirect and it will match that word, stuff like that. There are other user interface patterns that we can use with the search.
All right, so anybody have any other questions? Oh yeah. So we have another.
That has been discussed so many times on the issues. I'm not going to discuss it again. I write things like that. Talking about that again. And there is a second inbox that links to the comments and stuff. And if anybody has suggestions to link to comments that are useful, then I will gladly take a pull request for that. Because I know it's a bit confusing when you see the errors. It's part of the talk. It's confusing because it's an error, but it's not supposed to be an error. And that's why I opened the RFC, and that's why there are errors. They're considered failures. So it's still resolving the promise because the navigation, there was no error. There was no uncut error in the navigation. So the promise will reject only if there was an uncut error.
So, Eduardo, do you want to kind of keep chatting, or do you want to take a little break until the next talk?
No, I'm good. I don't know if the other talk is ongoing.
No, so we're on a break right now. So we have about like 8 minutes before the next talk.
No, we can keep talking. It's fine. We're talking about pandemic.
Yeah, that's always fun.
Yeah. Did you learn anything from the pandemic?
Yes. I started doing resin crafts. I don't know if you're.
What is resin?
Resin is like those clear. 19 minutes of break left. Oh, that's.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna do 19.
We'll do a couple more minutes. No, yeah.
And that pops up.
But resin, it's like you've used. It's like a clear, really hard material. They usually do like tables with it and stuff. Yeah. But I've been making really tiny things.
Is that the thing that they do? Yeah, they have a lot of videos online where they put all stuff and then they put the resin on top, and it's transparent, but it's extremely
hard.
Hard. And if it falls on the ground or anything, it's gonna stay there. So you have to be extremely careful when you do it.
Yeah, it like seals it. It seals everything. I'm not doing like heavy duty stuff. I'm definitely doing petite little projects, but it's been fun. Just trying to busy myself with different things that take my mind off of pandemic.
Yeah. Well, we can still, since a few months, we can go out here. So I had the time to go back to Spain and everything. So that was great.
Yeah, I definitely not going out around here. But yeah. Wow. How about any new games? I know the core team has been doing games.
We haven't played much.
Yeah.
No, apart from Animal Crossing, I haven't even played much Animal Crossing because I did have. Oh yeah, there was like a co-op game that was nice. I mean, a bit ridiculous. The history is hilarious. It's
Fall Guys.
Breakout or something like that. No, it's only co. There are two guys that have to escape from prison, and you can see both screens at the same time. It's quite original concept.
Oh, I'll have to play that. All right, so somebody has a question for you about. So Eduardo, are you working full time on open source stuff like Vue?
I'm almost full time. I have my we have sponsors to keep growing, and that's what I was saying at the end of the talk, that I have something around the corner to deliver very specific content, very practical content, usually around the router, but not only. So to give an incentive to sponsors to just for me and just have an extra something, because I realize that that's something that works for other people. But because of that, I still have to handle. No matter what, I will still have to work a little bit on the side. So right now, I have workshops every month or so, just so I can get like a couple $1,000 and pay the insurance and taxes. I mean, medical insurance. Yeah, that's how I call it. But basically, that's and most of my work is on Vue things. And the best way to get involved with Vue, finding one of the projects that you find interesting, checking out issues, and depending on how confident you feel, you can either start by just answering and looking at what people are reporting and just trying to see and trying to read and trying to fix them, and not necessarily going till the end, because maybe you cannot, but then maybe looking at the pull request and see how they manage to fix how the person fixing the bug managed to fix the bug, and learn from that, and just be patient. Don't put any pressure on yourself on having to accomplish a pull request by the end of the month or anything, but do try to see if you're understanding better and the pull request and the changes to the code of any of the libraries on the ecosystem, and maybe you can, at some point, you will feel confident enough to try fixing anything. And other than that, you also have the documentations part is always important, and it's usually a very easy, but very accessible to anybody if you speak the language, basically, because we all do mistakes, and we all have different points of view. So it's interesting to have different points of view on how a documentation can be read and ways to improve that, the way it's expressed, and can be the wording, it can be missing things, missing concepts, it can be order, it can be so many things that your experience reading the documentation showed up. I mean, I don't know the word how to say, but the way the documentation may expose things that other people may have not exposed because they were reading it differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I think that's a game. I don't know. I think it's A Way Out. A Way Out. Yes, it's A Way Out. That's the game I was playing on the PC.
Oh, that is nice. Was that the one that co-op?
The co-op. Yeah, that's the co-op one. I was playing with a friend, Spanish friend.
Writing this down.
So that's funny. I don't think. Yeah, there was another funny game on the Switch that was about perspective. So you move them around, and then you drop them, and because you look at the object from a different perspective, it's as if the object moved, but it kept the same size. So the object moved, but it looks the same, except that it's not at the same spot right now. It's very far away, but it's bigger, and that way it looks as if it was that close. So when you drop it, it becomes huge, and you move things around like that. I forgot the name. I think it's Insightful, something like that.
Is it Mountain Valley? Rahul just suggested that.
No, I think it's Insightful, but
Insightful. I kind of played a silly game that kind of sounds like this, but it's kind of a mess. I played it on Xbox, and it's like moving guys. So you have to like move a house into the moving truck. Has anybody played this? It's a little bit ridiculous and hectic. It's kind of like Overcooked, but you just kind of go into a house, break windows to throw the couches and fridge out of there, and then get it in the truck. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I haven't played it. It's not Mountain Valley. I don't know. I could check. It's something about Insight game. I don't know.
All right, so Steven has another question.
Oh, what is it? Experience with micro apps, micro frontends, and multiple frameworks. Perhaps you could recommend some frameworks like. No, I'm not a big fan of micro frontends. I'm part of the people who think that is in almost every scenario, it's misaligning an alignment on the team, and it's bringing more problems than it solves. It's good for old applications. To me, that's the only one. So I do try to make the router work for the micro apps. And I do have some contributions from people from Single API, which make me happy to make it work with them. I think it was Single API that they open up a request, they open some issues on pull request, and they help me, or they basically solve the problem. And I only had to guide them a little bit. It was very high quality. Very happy about the contribution. And I don't have anything to recommend. I mean, from a micro front-end perspective. They don't have, so I work with Sebastian. He's a good friend also of mine, but I work with Sebastian to make sure that he gets everything he needs from the router. So I don't think they don't have much of a problem with it's more like we are taking some work away from them, like the ranking of the routes. So that's great. They have their own ideas for Next 3, I think, and they will talk about that tomorrow. So because the router is transparent on Nuxt side, I don't think you will see much. You can see a benefit from it, but you won't have to change much, which is great. Oh, okay. But Nuxt, there is one thing I'm not sure the question is, because Nuxt uses vRouter. They don't have their own router. I think sometimes people forget or they don't know because you don't see the router, but they use vRouter. The idea for the router is to be also a bit low level sometimes, so you can do different things that work differently for different people. And I personally on my project, on my projects, I use Nuxt very often, and I enjoy very much having that folder structure. But you also have plugins to do it without Nuxt. Now we don't have on the router. We even have. I did work a little bit with people on NativeScript. No, NativeScript no. Also, but I don't know much about them. I haven't heard many news. But also people from Ionic. They also released a new version working with you. So I did talk with them and I tried to help them the best I could. And they managed to use vRouter, but they still had to override too many things, I think. So maybe in a month or something, it will be if I can help them or I can learn from that experience to abstraction of the router, so they can use even more. They don't have to rewrite so many. They had to rewrite a bit too many things on the router. So that's a shame. I wish it works for them better, because they do have to, because they have a mobile solution, they do have to re-implement the router view because they use a static navigation, so they have to keep the view have been through. And when you leave, you can unstack and still see them, and they appear with the animations and stuff. So that's a bit more complicated. The view components. The URL display on the browser is based on the view components. Is there a way we can tweak the set URL to only show a specific path? I'm not sure I understand. The URL is coming from the browser. You don't really have, it's more the other way around, I would say. Like the components are based on the URL. Is there a way we can tweak the set URL to only show a specific path, or maybe just a query param? No, you cannot do that. That would be a security issue if you could change the URL that way. I mean, or I'm not sure, depends on what you want to change, but you still URL to contain the information that conveys a meaning for the router to identify what route to display. So you cannot really customize like a mask on the route, because then you wouldn't be able. I mean, you can use an alias to have multiple routes, but multiple versions of a route, but you still need to you cannot change the URL on the browser without also letting the router know that maybe it has to display another URL. And there is no JavaScript API to hide the URL or change it. There won't be any JavaScript API to change the actual domain. I think that would be a security issue. But yeah, without re-rendering components. Well, that depends. The re-rendering components happens if the URL changes and need to render a new component. If you're talking about models, there was a part about models that you'll probably be able to see on the recording, but basically there's a route prop on router view that allows you to control what route we are displaying. And history state, you can also display a model or some kind of, or just change a little bit the view. So the URL will look like it's pointing to somewhere else. And if they paste that in, they will end up in a different view because the router will not be aware of the history state that was on the other session being the tab on a browser.
All right. So it looks like we have under 5 minutes left of the break. I don't know if you want to take a break or continue. I don't know if anybody has any other questions. There we go. We have another question.
Oh, I have a Jamstack with Nuxt2 and I'm using Nuxt-Link, but if I click on the route and route push is made, the URL in the browser is changed, but the content. Yes, that's a very specific problem that may be connected to your application specifically. But if the URL changes and it's pointing to somewhere else, if you reload the page and you have something different, you probably have an error that needs to be fixed. It's not unless it's a bug, but then it will need a boil down reproduction without Nuxt view router to check.
All right, Eduardo, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And awesome talk, like always.
Thank you. It was a bit depressed at the beginning, and because it's more energetic, it's more interesting. Yes, you can. Yeah, the answer is yes with the setup function. The on before route update and on before route leave can work anywhere. They still work. They are connected to the closest parent. So if it's a nested route, it will only react to that nested route and not the parent. But yeah, you can still watch the route for any changes and stuff like that.
How did you like pre-recording your talk, Eduardo?
It's fine for me because I didn't take you can see that I didn't take the time to change anything on the talk. I was pretty much just talking as if I was talking. To me, it's the same experience. I don't have the feeling of people, so it's like to nobody. I mean, that's the feeling you get. So I just did it once. I had one break in the talk that I had to edit out, and that's it.
Wow, amazing.
I didn't want to, but it's not the same quality as other talks where things are very clear. it's trying to be perfect. I don't try to be perfect. I just give the talk the same way I would give it if it was live. And if I do mistakes, well, that's how it goes. And if it's wrong, then I will redo it again, of course. But basically, I rehearsed the talk once, and then I recorded, and then I edited the video. And the camera was wrong. But yeah, I didn't record. I wasn't even on my home to record it again. So I was like, I cannot. But I said, it's okay.
Well, I think that's great advice for all the speakers that need to record talks in the future. Yeah, Rahul had features in his talk. All right, so we have like 30 seconds left, so I am going to hop off to make sure that I'm ready for introducing the next speaker. But thank you so much for your time and great talk.
Thank you. See you, everybody.